Hi, and welcome to a flatting tutorial with Marissa Louise, Chris Hazell, and Jacob Mercy.
Hello.
We're going to go over some file setup and...
Hello? Hello?
Hey! We're going to go over file setup in RGB CMYK, going over the difference between layers, channels, proper tool setup, and different flatting styles. For you to work along, Chris, does GIMP read PSD files or does it just read TIFFs?
Hello. Does this mic work?
Yeah, that mic's working.
Okay, good. It's not like showing any, not giving me a little green thing, so I can't tell if it's actually coming out on your end. Alright, yeah, GIMP can read PSD files, yes.
Okay, cool. I am copying a link for you guys to work along.
Okay.
We'd so like. Alright. And so, if anything's unclear, feel free to ask me. If it's a little remedial, sorry, but I like to make sure everything is precise.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Alright. Blah, 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 blah. Let's start by doing a screen share. We're going to do just... Maybe I should close a few things. 1 second, sorry. Oof. Do one of you want to tell a joke while I get screen share set up?
I don't know any jokes. I have no sense of humor.
I only do jokes for money, on my website, pizzagun.com. So can't really help you there. I can't just give this stuff away.
No, I suppose not.
Well, I guess that was the joke right there. So not a very good one, but okay. So I've finished downloading the file.
Great. Chris, do you have the file?
Yes.
Awesome. Alright. And I'm going to see if I can maybe raise your volume. Oops.
Sorry, both my webcam and my microphone seem to have broken since the last time I did this, so I'm using an old handheld mic.
That's okay. We got you. Alright.
Embedded color profile.
Oh. There we go. Okay. So sometimes screen share is kind of buggy. So
okay.
Let me know if it starts freaking out.
Will do.
Okay, can you see that?
It's freaking out. Oh wait, no, it's back. Wait, it's gone. And it's back. Okay, it's back.
How's that?
Oh wow, wrestlers.
Okay, so you guys both have this?
Yes.
So this one, oftentimes these will start out as like a bitmap or a grayscale, and then you just need to change it to whatever file format you're going to use. So I prefer to use TIFFs because when I'm coloring, I can have a second sort of window open, and it sort of previews how all my pages are working together. And it's just like a little shortcut, so I don't have to have a million things open at once. But lots of people prefer PSDs. But whatever works is how you're going to do it. If you are flatting for another colorist, what I suggest doing is getting references from them. getting what file format they prefer, so whether it's PSD or whether it's TIFF, getting whether they prefer CMYK or RGB, and getting whether they prefer the line art in channels or whether they prefer line art in layers. So the difference of having line art in layers and channels is like, it's kind of a small, fussy thing, but it is important. When you really get moving with flatting, sometimes you'll have to repick a color. And if your line art is in layers, what will happen is when you have your point sample, you'll have it set to all layers, and there is a specific reason for this. It's one of my shortcuts. You'll end up grabbing this black, and you don't want to flat with that. So what you want to do for the first step that I prefer to do is I'm going to switch this to CMYK because it's what I prefer to work in. So you go image.
All right, I have an even more remedial question than that. It says the image has an embedded color profile, color match RGB. Convert the image to the RGB working space. Has RGB built in. You want to convert or keep?
Yeah, I'll cover that because your artist is probably gonna have to change that anyway.
Okay.
Because each company has specific profiles. So let me get this into CMYK first. So you do CMYK, don't flatten if it's on multiple layers like this. And then the color settings, this is where the colorist is going to change your color settings. So you can see here I have settings for boom, and I have Marvel specific settings. I have like Dark Horse specific settings, and because I'm still working with boom right now, I'm gonna leave it on boom. So the artist is going to change that. So fortunately, you don't have to worry about that unless the colorist gives you specific instructions. Okay.
Okay.
So if so for one of the people I used to flat for, Bill Crabtree, he preferred his line art in layers set to multiply, and that's one way to do it. But I have a slightly different system. So I select all the line art. Whoops. First step is to select all the line art, and then go to channels, create new channel, paste it. Whoops. Alright, we'll just do it that way. That's not gonna work. Sorry. Ignore what I just did.
Okay.
Alright. We are just going to do it this way. We're going to duplicate the black channel. And then we are going to get rid of this line art. And then we're going to remove the little lock on the background layer and turn on black copy. Okay. So now we've got all...
your screen is not casting again.
Okay. Is it? How's it now?
It's a little... looks like a cat.
Oh dear. I can see it. I don't know. That probably doesn't help at all.
Can you see it?
Okay, it's back.
Okay. Alright. So, one of my tricks I would normally do if there was like frames is set your magic wand to contiguous and have anti-alias off. Okay?
Okay.
Tolerance set to 4. This is so you can double check things later. So one of my tricks would normally be to select your line art copy and then make a duplication of the gutters. And that's just to keep things clean, but in this instance there isn't really gutters, so we're not going to do that. So if you were doing ready to render flats, so this is like if you're coloring for yourself, what you do is you get this background file set up the way you would for rendering. And one thing I do so that my black doesn't max out is this is just like a fail-safe that I do the blend if black, and this is absolutely not anything anyone else has to do unless they're actually doing coloring. Even then they don't have to do it, but it is helpful. So this way, when I set it to this, I can use any color to color here. But if I go above 35%, all of it disappears. So that's just a fail-safe for me, so that when I'm coloring, if I accidentally go above 35% in my black, that I know that I did it and I can change the color.
Can you show me that one again?
So you go in layers, you double-click the layer, and then blend if black, and then set the dark tab here to 70%. Okay.
Where am I? Blend. Okay. Gotcha. Blend if black. What am I setting to 70?
The black tab.
Your screen's gone again.
You see this? This tab here. Here. Maybe I'll just do a screenshot. It didn't work. Never mind, it didn't work. I will make a screenshot of it later.
Okay.
I just got to make a note to do that. All right. And I know, Chris, you're on GIMP, so things are a little different, but I think a lot of the concepts will sort of be the same.
Yeah, I may be a little bit behind just because I'll be trying to figure out like where stuff is in GIMP as opposed to...
Yeah. So then you just fill in with a back. This is the ready to render one. It's best to use the polygon lasso. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the jaggedy lasso. Make sure your feather is 0. Make sure your anti-alias is 0. And then for circles like this, start in the upper left and whatever. It doesn't actually have to be in order, but it's helpful. So on circles and certain rectangles, I like to use tool.
You cut out just as it were saying what tool it was.
The marquee tool. So make sure the marquee is also set to feather 0, anti-alias off.
Okay,
and then fill.
I see anti-alias. Where is this feather selection?
I don't know. If you don't see it in GIMP, you
I'm not in GIMP.
Don't have it.
No, I'm in Photoshop. I'm in like CS something.
Feather is right next to anti-alias. It should be at 0 pixels.
I see tolerance.
Maybe you're in an older one.
Well, you are talking about the magic wand tool, right?
No, I'm talking about the marquee tool.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm just filling in a little circle here.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, I actually still don't see it, but whatever.
And it's super, the marquee tool is super helpful for sections like this, where you're dealing with pretty precise circles.
Your screen's gone again.
So I would go something like that, right? And then to the polygon lasso, making sure all your settings are proper. And on letters like this, because they're overlapping, what I would do is do each one a slightly different color. Whoops. And working back to front. Going a little slow on the curves just to make sure you nail them. So this is from a Go-Getter short I did. And Chris Peterson is the very talented artist. So you just want to hit right in the dead center of that line. Because what you're doing here is you're setting this up for the colorist so that they can do their job. And saving often. Okay, so here's a great tip for Photoshop. Once you've started your polygon lasso, if you hold down Alt, you can turn it into a free draw lasso, which is really great if you're doing like a combination of curves and straight lines. It really sort of speeds up the process. And in my experience with these lassos is they can like close any minute. So you want to try to just like make big chunks of the space that you're filling in, and then close it pretty quickly, because it will close on you and you will lose all of your selection and you will be very sad and you won't like it, I promise. Okay, so here's where I've popped out the hand, right? I'm taking my polygon lasso again, and I've hit, I think, Control-Alt. It's an automatic hand gesture, so I'm afraid I don't actually know what I do. And it's going to do what's called select intersecting. So that selection I already did, instead of having to reselect it, it's now been automatically selected. And this is just, it's really helpful for speed. A good rule of thumb is that you keep all objects the same color unless they're overlapping. And then in that case, you want to vary it a little bit for ease of selection. So this is basically like a ready to render flat where things are probably pretty close to where the colorist wants them, but unless you're the colorist, you don't really have an idea. So this is not the kind of flatting I recommend, especially without reference, right?
That makes sense.
So there you go. Important things to note. Everything absolutely butts up against repeating colors. Okay?
You said no repeating colors, is that what you said?
Yeah. The only reason a color should repeat is if it's the same object, right? So this is going to be the gorilla's arm again. So you would want to reuse that color for his arm. And like, don't be afraid to zoom in super close. It's better that you get in there close and you can move a little more freely than if than if you're zoomed out and you draw things wrong. That is definitely not the most preferable outcome. Okay, so then the mask would be a different color.
And so these colors are going on the background layer?
Yep.
That's what's happening? Okay.
Alright, like that. And sometimes as a flatter, you just sort of have to guess at stuff. Like, you don't really know how it's going to turn out. But use your best guess, you know. Like, you can probably guess that the gorilla's screaming mouth is probably going to be about the same color as its hands. And that the gorilla has teeth. So, I use a standard color for all my teeth and eyes. Whoops. And that is 0 everything except 5 yellow. And there's a specific reason for that. I will show you in just a second. Okay. So this, there we go. All right. So let's say I've got this all flattened. And then you just all flatted, you should just have this one layer, and then you send it off to the color. And it's easy peasy. And they can move the liner out of the channels. Because I am very particular about repeating colors, I developed a system so that you can still see what you're doing, but you don't use repeating colors, right? So what I do is I use my first color is 10C, and then I move to 20C. This is just going to be, I'm going to do rainbow flats here, and you can see there's some areas I screwed up. So just go in and fix that when you get a chance. Then increasing the cyan by 10% every time until you get to 80. And the reason I stop at 80 is because it gets too difficult to see after 80. All right.
Okay.
And when you're using your pencil, you want to be sure to use your pencil and not your paintbrush. You want to anti-aliasing. Then another little trick I use is you know how the color, you have two things you can switch between, toggle between, two colors you can toggle between. What I do is the color I'm working with, right, so I don't lose track of what I just used, because when you line, it's very easy to lose track of what you're doing. Every time I do repairs, I toggle to the background color so that I don't lose track of what colors I've already used. So once you've maxed out at
80?
At 80, yeah, 80 cyan, add 10 magenta, and then increase the cyan by 10 again. So the reason you're going by 10 is it's just easier to see, and that's why it's to yellow 5, because you're never going to end up with yellow 5. You will, if there's a lot of stuff in your flats, you absolutely will end up with, like, you know, yellow 30 and cyan 100, cyan 80. But you just keep going systematically until it's all done. So I'm going to show you another little trick I like to use. Sometimes you'll have panels that overlap like this.
Mm-hmm.
and they'll have like a little more stuff in them. So what you do is you select the inlay panel, and then, bear with me, this little boop, boop. And when I was flatting this for coloring it, I had to do this little trick a lot because there's a lot of panels sort of laying on top of each other.
Screen's gone.
I think that might be you because it looks like it's showing up on my recording.
Oh, and man. Mine too.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have this area selected, and you can use, like, so when it's on top of something else, you can use wand, so it's Shift-Alt to select intersecting. And you hold Shift-Alt, and then you select intersecting. Control-J, lock transparent. Then it stays locked like that, so that when you work on this, you can be looser without disturbing anything else. Right? So and select intersecting is like a total heaven sent gift.
So what is select intersecting doing exactly?
Select intersecting photoshopped as Shift-Alt, and what it does is it takes what you already have selected and refines it by what you reselect.
Okay. Oh, I see. Right.
Alright, so you can carrying through this area because I'm using select intersecting and all my little shortcuts. And I will show you why the lock transparency is helpful here in a second. Alright, there we go. Okay. So let's say we want to work on this panel below. Which we do want to do. And so we're going to keep changing the backgrounds, right? We're going to keep the character consistent, but we're going to keep changing these sort of stamp cutouts. Because more than likely, the colorist in this situation is not going to color all of those cutouts the same color. Oh, and when you do eyes, be sure to toggle to the background color real fast so you don't lose your place. The key is basically not to lose your place. So there we go again, and I'm going underneath that other cutout without disturbing it or undoing any of my work, which is things we want. So then I already have a flesh. I'm going to select that, and even though it's on a different layer, it's okay because I have my sample all. Right? Like that. And as you can see, like when I'm building up, I'm being very precise. But when I'm like going over areas I haven't gone over yet, I sort of do like a little peek into that area, a peak shape into that area. I want to make sure everything abuts and I don't have to do cleanup. Because cleanup sucks and it's a waste of time. I mean, it's not a waste of time. You need to do it if you need to do it. But you want to try to be efficient in a way where you don't have to do a lot of cleanup. So that means like maybe like doing a little cleanup as you go along, right? Because I made a mistake here. You can use is if you're having a really hard time really hitting in between the lines. Which can happen sometimes, is you go to channels and put the channels at 70%. Do this because I think it's a little visually cluttered, but it can be really useful if you're having a hard time seeing what you're doing. And then you just keep these boots right here. This might be a spot where you want to use an alternate color for the two types of boots because they're overlapping there. Render them differently. These people in the background, they will probably be rendered in a couple of rows. So you just like select them out in one color, maybe draw it a little nicer than I'm drawing it right now. In fact, definitely do it. So you select out the two rows of people, and then this row can be the same. Oh. This row can be the same. This row can be the same. All these stars, they would be the same color, right? Some loose border like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably gonna have to like draw it in. And then I would do that before I did the gorilla. This squiggly, you probably wouldn't have to do anything for that because it's not really a shape so much as a decorative line, you know?
Mm.
So one thing is if you're using your wand, if you've drawn in a space, you can just fill it real quick. This isn't because your marquee and your lasso are a little more precise. Like when you're doing things with your pencil, you can see here, like it's really easy to get sloppy, and then you have to go back in and sort of like, did I get it halfway? Did I not get it halfway? And it's just like it's too much cleanup. I know a lot of people like to use quick mask to do this, but I don't like to do that because I think it's much faster to just select it with the lasso and then fill it. And you'll notice and if you do use the paint bucket, you need to set it to contiguous. And also make sure the anti-alias is off there. I don't really use the paint bucket because it's slow and it's I don't like those two things. Let's see, what else was I going to go over? Got proper tool setup. Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Could you talk just a little about what the colorist sort of does with this? So,
Yes! I will show you.
I think it'll make a little more sense if I sort of know what the
Right.
purpose of it is.
All right. So let's see. That was page 5. Okay, there it is. So this is my completed page. Oops. That one doesn't have flats on it. Sorry, this is an old project, so all the... Oops, censor some stuff here. Let me see if I have anything that's not merged. I'm going to use this because this book's coming out in 2 weeks, so it should be fine. Okay, so what does a colorist use flats for? I'll use this one because I had to do a lot of stuff to this page. Take a moment to open, sorry, because it's kind of a huge page. So you see all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here is my, if you can see, I'm going to try to bring this into screen. So here's my layers. Once I remove it from channels, once the work is done, once the flatting's done, what you want when you're coloring is you want all the color to butt. So here are my flats. They're like, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the rainbow flats that I like. And then I sort of into these big shapes.
I didn't quite catch that. You dropped out for a second.
Okay. I divided that into big shapes for clarity, so my two big planes, and then I divided that into smaller groups to just sort of increase my clarity. And then when I was rendering, so this is my layer that I was rendering on. So let's say like I needed to render this guy's vest. I would go up to flats, and I would select it, and then I could render there. And flats also works because like they did not like RoboCop this blue. So if I was trying to select it down here, like this is a nightmare to select once it's rendered. Yeah. But because I needed to make that change, I needed a way to continue to select things. So my flats are still on another layer, and I just select my flats and then make a huge saturation mask based off of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so like my clouds are rendered, so I can use this color fill mask. So what it does is it ensures that once things are rendered, that that they're still selectable, and that all your rendering is going right up to the edge.
Okay. Now it makes sense.
So this is, and I guess I already got rid of my flats on it, but I did like mad and it makes the rendering process a lot easier if you can just select this stuff, you know. Any other questions?
Yeah, so to go back to the very beginning, what you were putting the line art on channels? What was going on there again?
Yeah, I put the line art on channels so that when I have inlay panels, I'm gonna switch out of this. Okay, when I have inlay panels, it's so that it can select the colors from the inlaid panels or any sort of panels that I've put on another layer without selecting the black. It maybe seems fussy, but the reason I do that is because when you're flatting, your brain should shut off and you should move really, really fast.
Okay.
So if your brain has to be on, it's going to slow you down a lot, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to take forever, and it's going to be excruciating. So these systems I developed are basically so that you can turn off your brain and just move.
Okay.
Because some pages will take like 2 hours to flat, and that RoboCop 2-page spread was probably like 3 hours to flat.
Yeah, that looked a little rough.
Yeah, not fun stuff. But if you're thinking the whole time, that is going to take like 9 hours to flat, and it's not going to be worth $20.
That makes sense.
And that's a 2-page spread, so you know it's like $10 per page is the standard rate right now, which is, in my opinion, low. But I wish I could afford to pay flatters more, but
Yeah, that's the economy for you.
yeah. And I still do about half of my own flatting, so it's not like I'm not trying to exploit anyone. I just need a little help. Ooh. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think I got it. I'm gonna just go ahead and practice to make sure it makes sense to me in GIMP, I think.
Yeah, mess around with that page, and then if you want more stuff, or if you want me to check it over, just...
Yeah, I think that might be the good thing. I'll just like do this as a practice, and I'll like send it in. You can say, "Oh, you did this wrong. Will that work?"
Yeah, and it is inevitable your first page to screw up. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And maybe your second page, but by your third page you should have a pretty good grasp on it.
Okay.
By your 10th page you should be pretty fast. And by your 100th page you'll be like lightning. Because I think when I was starting out, I flatted for 2 or 3 colorists and myself. So I would do maybe like flat 3 or 4 books a month. Something like that.
Oh wow, that's quite a lot of pages.
And they were hard pages too. So that's why I developed these pretty streamlined systems, is so that I was in slightly less agony. So I'm happy to share it.
All right, well, I think I've got it. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome.
Guess I'll see you around then.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Later.